So imagine this: Big and Carrie walk into a therapy room, but on the day of the session, last minute, he calls her and says something like, Carrie and Big's happy ending is completely unrealistic. You have to say enough, even if it hurts, even if your heart is breaking. A man who truly cares for you will never make you feel small. He is emotionally unavailable, she is addicted to the chase. The relationship is a masterclass in dysfunction, yet millions rooted for them. Why? Because Carrie and Big's relationship mirrors a painful truth. Trauma bonds are often mistaken for passion. Let's break down their toxic dynamic, the psychology of obsession, and for the first time, put them in a fictional therapy session. Spoiler, Big would not last for 5 minutes. And if you're interested how therapy could have looked for another Sex and the City icon, Samantha Jones, I've got a full video on my channel. Please watch it and let us know what you think. Carrie and Big's relationship was built on three dangerous illusions. Number one, he loves me in his own way. Translation: she tolerated breadcrumbs, mistaking anxiety for passion. Number two, if I wait long enough, he will choose me. Classic trauma bond logic. And number three, the drama means it's real. Spoiler, healthy love doesn't leave you crying on the street in your Manolos, as cinematic as it looks. Big was a textbook avoidant man, terrified of vulnerability and addicted to control. Carrie, anxious avoidant style. Yes, anxious avoidant. Remember how the roles were reversed when Aidan showed up? Suddenly, Carrie was very much avoidant, but we are going to talk about this a bit later. With Big, she needed constant reassurance, and he needed endless space. Their dynamic, their push and pull, wasn't romantic tension. It was two wounded people reenacting childhood trauma. First, let's address the nickname that she's using. She's calling him Big, not by his name, John. It's actually very important because psychologically, it tells us about emotional distance. It's about fantasy projection. He is just a title, fantasy figure. He's not a person, not a real person. Carrie never really knew him. She was in love with the fantasy. She knows the idea of him, and that idea is larger than life. Think about it. What do we know about the guy? We know nothing about him. He was just the perfect guy for the role. He's always mysterious, always slipping through her fingers, just to create more space for fantasy and illusion. And Carrie loved it, even though she would have never admitted that. They were on and off together, but was there a real closeness between them? No, Carrie did not even know his age. Do you remember that scene when she celebrated her birthday and he came over to say happy birthday and she was asking him to choose a box for his age? How can you be with someone and not even know how old they are? My dear viewers, please remember that Sex in the City is not about healthy relationships. And why would it be? Because drama sells. In reality, the character of Mr. Big from Sex and the City is loosely based on a real person from Candace Bushnell's life. His name is Ron Galati, and he was a former magazine executive. Candace and her Mr. Big had a romantic relationship, but it was ultimately short-lived. In real life, there was no wedding, no airport chases, there's no happy ending. In fact, Candace once admitted in the interview that once she met her Mr. Big wearing the pink dress that later inspired that Sex and the City scene, and she told him that they should be friends and tell each other stories. And he told her that he got married, and that was the end of their real story. Carrie and Big's happy ending towards the end of the series and the movies is completely unrealistic. But their dynamic mirrors a pattern that many women unfortunately recognize. He pulls away and she chases. He shows a tiny sign of warmth and she leaps 10 steps forward. He sets the tempo and she just tries to keep up. When Carrie is with Mr. Big, she lives in a constant state of anxiety. She's deeply invested in a fantasy, the fantasy that love is something that you must earn, be chosen for, and be worthy of. And Big becomes a measuring stick for her worth. And this idea that this emotionally unavailable, handsome, distant man can choose her becomes an obsession for her. The more he pulls away, the more valuable he becomes. So why does Carrie stay? Why does she keep coming back to this relationship even after all the drama and heartbreak? Because for Carrie, being chosen by Mr. Big equals being enough. There's this deep internal belief that if someone as powerful and attractive as Mr. Big chooses me, that means I am enough. It means I matter, it means I'm lovable. But that's not love. That's a wounded inner child hoping that this time the emotionally unavailable parent figure will finally choose her. And she's replaying that trauma with Big. She represents that fantasy. If she just tries hard enough this time and she's a little bit cooler, more desirable, then she will be enough and her parent will finally love her. Let's talk about Mr. Big. Big is charming, sophisticated, witty. He's obsessed with control, but underneath, he's emotionally empty. He avoids vulnerability like it's a plague. He cheats without remorse. He avoids having difficult conversation. He disappears at key moments and he reappears when it suits him. He wants the intimacy without the responsibilities. That's not complexity. That's not he loves me in his own way. That's emotional immaturity and incapability. He is a narcissist and he manipulates her ruthlessly, sometimes perhaps without even realizing it. He is treating Carrie like an afterthought. He shows up to their date with a friend. He sends her flowers for her birthday to then later dismiss it as his secretary's doing. He gives her the balloons for her birthday and then just says it to her face that it wasn't actually him who got the balloons, it was the driver. He hides her in a back alley restaurant and he flakes on the plans. And he only appears when he feels like it. A man who truly cares for you will never make you feel small. And the saddest part is that Carrie allows it. And unfortunately, this dynamic is often found in real life, not just a fictional TV show. In one of the films, he literally leaves her at the altar. Think about this, a grown man who had 6 seasons to figure out his feelings leaves a woman that he claims he loves at the last minute before their wedding. He doesn't respect Carrie. He doesn't respect anyone. Does he respect his wife, Natasha? No, he doesn't. He cheats on her in her own bed. Natasha and Big, they get divorced shortly after that story, and notice an important difference between Natasha and Carrie. As painful as it was for her, I'm sure, Natasha was able to move on. She moved on and she removed him from her life. But Natasha did not have Carrie's suffocating obsession with being chosen by Mr. Big. Because healthy person will always choose themselves and a traumatized one will always choose the relationship. So why does Carrie chooses men like Big? Often, it's a kind of emotional pattern that originated in early childhood. Maybe Carrie had an inconsistent, emotionally distant parent. Or maybe she needed to deserve love. Or maybe love was conditional. Maybe she had to earn affection, attention, and praise. So, as an adult, stability feels boring. Real intimacy feels suspicious. And the only love that feels real is the dopamine-fueled love. A roller coaster love. So imagine this, Big and Carrie walk into a therapy room. It's almost absurd to imagine, isn't it? Big, a classic, avoidant, emotionally distant man, willingly walking into a therapy session where he's expected to be open about his feelings. It's really hard to imagine him sitting down, opening up, and exploring his inner world. In reality, a more likely scenario would be Carrie begs him to go, and he reluctantly says yes just to get her off his back. But on the day of the session, last minute, he calls her or texts her and says something like, "Sorry, kid. Last minute meeting came up, something. Doesn't matter," but he just doesn't show up. And we see that pattern with them all the time. She plans, he cancels. She hopes, he disappoints. Again, 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 and again. But let's say, just for the sake of this fantasy, he does show up. What would it look like? Well, when narcissistic or severely avoidant people come to therapy, they often go in with the energy like, my toy is broken, fix her. There's no curiosity about their role in the dynamic. There's no desire to change, just to believe that there's absolutely nothing wrong with them and that the other person is just overreacting. Big would likely say something like, "I'm here for her. She's unstable. I'm doing everything I can. I have a business to run. I just don't know what else she wants." And just like that, he minimizes her pain again, gaslights her, and makes her feel like she's crazy for feeling hurt. If the therapist asked Big a question, he might brush it off, deflect, or maybe he would show up once but never to return. Because men like him, they don't believe there's anything wrong with them. In their mind, the problem is always someone else. And Carrie, her anxiety would only get worse. She would spiral. She can start feeling like she's broken, there's something in her that needs to be fixed, without realizing that that's the relationship itself that is very deeply toxic. Eventually, she might stay in therapy, even if Big doesn't, and that might be a point where true healing begins. Remember, she actually did try therapy once, but she didn't stick with it. She wasn't ready. But what if she was? What if she stuck with it long enough to see her own patterns? We, the viewers, have seen her patterns for 6 seasons of the original show, 2 movies, and now, and just like that, series. We watched her chase a man who made her feel small, unstable, and unworthy. But she could not leave because on the primal level she believed that without him she would crumble. Does this sound familiar? Maybe you've lived it. Maybe you've had someone you love walk away from you again and again. But you still stayed. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is wired for chaos. Because your body equates rejection with love. Because someone in your early childhood made you believe that love needed to be earned. Or maybe you've watched a friend or a sibling in a relationship like this. You've tried to talk them out of it, you have explained, you've reasoned, but they still stayed, and maybe they even told you, "I know it's bad, but I just can't leave. I feel like I will die without them." That's attachment trauma. When a child is neglected, dismissed, or emotionally abandoned, they grow up believing that love comes in crumbs. That being close to someone means being on edge all the time. And when that child grows up, they don't seek love. They seek the feeling of the love they once knew. Anxiety, unpredictability, and longing. And Big provided all of that. So when Aidan showed up, calm, present, emotionally available, it was too much for her. Her nervous system could not register this as love. She said it once in the show, "Maybe you're too available," because it was suffocating for her. She wasn't used to peace that Aidan could provide. She was used to drama. The safety he offered was completely foreign. Carrie had no internal template for secure love, secure attachment. She needed the swing, the high and the low, and the dopamine crash. That's what her brain had learned to call love. But therapy, real therapy, could change that. Not overnight, not in a single breakthrough scene, but over months or maybe even years. She would build a consistent, secure bond with a therapist, a bond that she never had. That could become the first secure relationship she had in her life. In psychology, we often say awareness is half the cure. So seeing the pattern is already a big progress. To say out loud that even if Big chooses me, it will not fill the void in my soul, that is a turning point. Because it was never really about Big. If it's not him, there will be another Big. The universe will send the same lesson in a different clothing until we finally learn. I would also like to talk about that very disturbing scene that we see in the first Sex and the City movie, where Carrie and Big were supposed to finally get married. After years of heartbreak and drama, that was supposed to be that fairy tale ending. But what happens? He leaves her at the altar. And yes, later he comes back and he says, it was just a moment of hesitation, I'm ready now. But it was too late. Carrie runs to him completely devastated. She tries to hit him with the bouquet, screaming and crying. And she says something that is incredibly revealing at that moment. She says, I knew you would do that. Think about it. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't shocked. She knew he would do it. That's a deep, heartbreaking confirmation. On the surface, you might think, well, of course she had doubts. He's always been unreliable. Even after everything they've been through, she still could not count on him. But here's the bigger question. If she knew he would do it, why did she stay? That line, I knew you would do it, is almost a self-diagnosis because deep down, we all know. She wasn't blindsided. She expected him to hurt her, but she stayed anyway. And that kind of knowing, it comes from somewhere very deep. It comes from early childhood, where someone did not show up for you consistently, but now as an adult, you keep choosing people who do exactly that. Big wasn't just a man, he was a giant mirror. And Carrie didn't really love him, she just reenacted her trauma with him. You can judge Carrie, you can dislike her, I know many people do, but in that scene, you don't just see a character, you see a pattern. And sadly, that pattern plays out in real life far too often. She just waits for Big, she waits for the crumbs of commitment, and even in Just Like That, she agrees to wait 5 more years for Aidan until his kids grow up. It's self-abandonment dressed as a devotion. So what's the lesson? The lesson is you can't wait for someone to choose you. You have to choose yourself. You have to say enough, even if it hurts, even if your heart is breaking. And then, step by step, you start healing. Whether it's therapy, books, online resources, or even your deep reflection, there are so many paths now. You don't need to be stuck. You can rewire your system. You can learn what safe love feels like. You can become the secure base that you never had. Fritz Perls, the founder of Gestalt therapy, once said, "It's not what they did to you that matters. It's what you do to yourself now that counts." That's the power of healing. That's the power of responsibility. Because what you're not changing, you're choosing. So please take one step and then take another. And that's what I would tell Carrie if I were her therapist. Stop waiting for Big to choose you. Choose yourself. And just don't look back. Because in the end, therapy might not save your relationship, but it can save you. So no, in my humble opinion, therapy could not fix Big and Carrie. But it could help Carrie fix that part of herself that believed that she needed Big to make her complete. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. If you're on your own healing journey, please know that every step that you take towards yourself is a victory. We already have a video where we explored Samantha Jones in a therapy session she never had, and a lot of you have asked for Charlotte, so she's next, and then maybe Miranda. Let us know who you want us to analyze next, and subscribe so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching, and please remember, healing is not a straight line, but it begins with choosing yourself.